Hey, what's up YouTube? It's ICU, and in today's video we're going to be unboxing the brand new 16-inch MacBook Pro from Apple that was just released today, Friday, November 15th, 2019. Now, this laptop replaces the previous 15-inch MacBook Pro model in Apple's lineup, and that means it also starts at the exact same $2,399 before tax. Also, Apple has introduced a number of brand new and welcomed improvements here, besides just increasing the display size to 16 inches in the exact same form factor. Additionally, the base storage configuration is actually 512 gigs now, and Apple has reinvented the keyboard, or at least so they say. They've basically gone backwards and regressed back to using the previous scissor mechanism. So the butterfly keys are now dead, and they've added a physical escape key. This thing will cost you a pretty penny, even though it does start at the exact same cost as its predecessor. If you spec it up, it goes all the way up to 8 terabytes, and just that upgrade alone is almost more than the entire cost of the laptop. Actually, strike that, it is by $1, which is insane. $2,400 just to go from the base 512 gigs of SSD storage up to that 8 terabyte that I just mentioned. Also, this thing is configurable with up to 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 graphics memory, 64 gigs of RAM, which will cost you $800, which is insane. Of course, none of this is user upgradable whatsoever. It's all soldered to the logic board, and an 8-core 9th generation Intel Core i9 processor with turbo boost up to 5 gigs. So let's start with the box itself. On the front, we actually just have a picture of the MacBook itself opened with that screen in all of its glory. The sides simply have Apple logos, whereas the top and bottom say MacBook Pro. And on the back, we just have the specifications for this 16-inch MacBook Pro, and that is 16 inches measuring diagonally, and it's the same Retina LED backlit display with True Tone technology and a resolution of 3072 by 1920. This one has that base 2.6 gigahertz 6-core Intel Core i7 with 12 megabytes of shared L3 cache and turbo boost up to 4.5 gigahertz. 16 gigabytes of 2666 megahertz DDR4 memory, 512 gigabytes of PCIe based flash storage for that SSD, an AMD Radeon Pro 5300M with 4 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory, Intel UHD graphics 630, and 4 Thunderbolt 3 USB Type-C ports with support for high-speed I/O and video out. Of course, this still has the same headphone jack. It has a touch bar with Touch ID. Now the two are separate. It has that dedicated escape key, as I mentioned, with that full backlit Magic Keyboard is what Apple's calling it, similar to the iMac Pro and what that ships with. It has 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 5.0, the same FaceTime HD camera. It's pre-installed with Mac OS, obviously, and this one is a tad bit heavier than its predecessor, coming in at 4.3 pounds. Just like with all of Apple's latest products, we have this conveniently placed plastic tab that we can use to just pull and take the plastic right off of the box. All right, and now let's just go ahead and lift the lid to reveal the MacBook sitting directly on top. And guys, I've got to say, I've done a lot of these unboxing videos over the years, and what I noticed that's different with this box right off the bat is that the walls of it are significantly thicker than they used to be. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it does mean that I was able to easily open the box without having to kind of, do that gesture where you have to like shake it a little bit to get the weight of the product to actually slam the box down onto the table. There's none of that here this time. I think it's probably attributed to that fact. And also the borders of this box are significantly bigger as well. So let's go ahead and take this guy out of the box, set it off camera for just a second, and go over the rest of the contents. So at the bottom we have our USB Type-C to USB Type-C cable. This is what you're going to use for data transfer and charging purposes. Of course, you might still need to buy USB Type-C adapters if your existing peripherals are USB-A, but at this point, Apple's been shipping USB-C with their laptops since 2015, so that's no shock. Now, up at the top, you do have this pamphlet that says designed by Apple in California in their customary style. And when we pull the contents of the packet out, if they come out, you'll notice that now, yep, that's everything, okay. You'll notice that now we do have Apple logo stickers that match the color of the laptop. I did get the space gray variant, and therefore we have those space gray stickers. We also have this MacBook Pro sheet right here that just contains some additional info, and we have this pamphlet that walks you through the laptop itself. And then up at the top, we do have a beefier charger this time around, and this thing is pretty hefty actually. Taking the plastic wrap off of it, which is actually more of like a papered kind of plastic, which is cool. You'll notice that on the underside where you go to plug it in, this is now a 96 watt USB-C power adapter. So Apple did increase that, and this thing should give you a faster charge. The MacBook itself should have comparable life to its predecessor as well. Apple's actually quoting an additional hour of usage there. All right, now returning to the star of this video, we have the MacBook itself. Let's go ahead and remove the plastic wrap. There we go, guys. Set this down. And now lifting the lid reveals this protector on the screen that we can just go ahead and take off. It's kind of like a paper protector, and it immediately starts booting up with the Apple logo. So wow, I mean, this thing looks insane. The bezels definitely look smaller on the sides. There is a noticeably larger bezel up at the top, similar to the 15-inch model. And I'm just going to go through this really quick and set it up, and I'll be right back. All right, and during the setup process, I really wanted to highlight this aspect of it. So we have the Touch ID setup going on right now, but what you'll notice that's different with this model is that the Touch ID sensor is actually separate from the touch bar. I mean, it was always separate to begin with, but now there's actually space between the touch bar and also the Touch ID sensor. You can see the bare metal exposed through that, whereas previously it was trying to kind of pretend to be one thing, even though the button and sensor itself functioned as its own separate component. So you can see here that it says lift and rest your fingerprint on Touch ID repeatedly. And this is just the exact same process that we've become accustomed with inside of the macOS interface. On that same topic of the touch bar being separate from Touch ID, as I mentioned toward the beginning of this video, we do have that dedicated escape key as well. So many people asked for that, and now it is here. There you go, guys. Wow, look at that display. It's absolutely incredible. So I'm going to click Don't Allow here. All right, now we're just going to go over the physical aspects of the machine to wrap this video up, but you'll notice here that, as I mentioned, this is separate too. For some people, that is a big deal, but what's a bigger deal to me is that they fixed the keyboard. I know with my previous 15-inch, before I accidentally broke it, that's a completely separate story for another video, that the keys themselves would stick so frequently. It was super annoying, even though there wasn't anything inside of the keys themselves. They would just stick, and they would not be able to type unless, you really took some canned air to it, or you repeatedly smashed the key, which I was always worried that would break it. It never ended up doing so, but nevertheless, the keyboard now is fixed. Apple is looking back to the past to do that, and they've reverted back to the previous scissor mechanism here. And because of this, you'll notice that the keys are raised up quite a bit more, and they also do actually have more travel. They have a more tactile feel, they're more responsive, they're not as mushy, and I really do love this change. I forgot how much I missed the MacBook keyboard of old. So big props to Apple there for reverting and admitting that they were wrong on that front. Everything else, though, is pretty much the same. We have the same larger Force Touch trackpad here on this model. The speaker cutouts look the same. However, Apple has done so much to actually reinvent the mobile laptop speaker here that supposedly these things sound insane. And also on top of that, they've included a microphone that they say will rival USB microphones for things like podcasts. Aside from, like I said, though, the keyboard, the touch bar, touch ID sensor, and obviously the larger display that we have right here. Everything else is virtually identical. So when I close it, we have the exact same design, USB-C on the left, flip it over, USB-C on the right with, of course, that headphone jack, and that's basically it. So this concludes my unboxing video. I think that this is a very compelling machine. The specs are kind of off the chart for a Apple laptop. If you want to look at it that way, it's pretty unreal. And of course, those unreal specs will come with an unreal price tag. But if you're in the market for specifically a new Apple notebook or laptop rather, then I highly recommend checking it out because this is undoubtedly the best laptop Apple has ever made, and they're going back in all the ways that matter and revisiting them, like with that keyboard and escape key, obviously. To me, that's still boggling, but I get why some people would want that. Anyway, so far, initial impressions, I love this machine. It looks and feels incredible. It's just everything that the Apple MacBook Pro should have been when they reinvented it back in 2016. So I hope you guys liked this video. Be sure to stay tuned for more, and until next time, this is ICU signing out.